you'd have BDRs that just came in and they're the best that you've ever seen. And it's like, I hate when sometimes you have to limit them because it's like, well, we don't move that fast. And there's people that would fly into an AE role within like sometimes 6-7 months. And it sounds crazy, but then they'd be the best AE and they'd rise up really fast. Whoa, sorry, I hit the microphone. I'll blame it on the old fashioned.
Welcome back to the Top Shelf Outbound Leadership Podcast. We have a very exciting guest for you today, Matt Reuter, VP of Sales Development at RealPage. Specifically at RealPage, he has created the RealPage Sales Academy that has ramped over 100 SDRs into AE roles. So naturally, given that kind of unique skill set that he's shown there, the topic we'll be discussing today is building a sales enablement program for SDRs to become top sellers. And we cannot wait to dig in. Thank you, Matt, for joining us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. I'm excited for old fashions and everything SDR outbound. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, these are both two topics that Joey and I love, which is old fashions, and we can show you our collections at another date, and enabling SDR. So I'm pumped here, but I already said it. What is it that we're sipping on and why is it important to you?
Smoked old fashions. That's my go-to when I go out places. I got this nice little, smoking kit as a gift one year, and it kind of changed the whole game. So yeah, we could just light them up. I love just to watch it pour in there too.
It is such a visually appealing cocktail, and I think, I don't know when it like first became a big thing, but there's boxes, there's stuff like you guys are doing right now. It's if you order it at like a bar or a restaurant and someone gets it and it's presented, like it catches people's eyes every single time. And then I think that was like the intention originally. And then they're like, oh, like it's also a delicious drink and the smokiness is nice. And now they're very popular. So I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Once you guys is done smoking, I pre-smoked mine, but
oh, that's gonna have to be the thumbnail. Smoke coming out of them.
That's beautiful. Perfect.
So the instruction on this was Elijah Craig. So I've got some Elijah Craig barrel proof in here. It's my last day of my current role, and I had a little bit of extra time on my hands to make this drink. So I made simple syrup with liquid smoke in it as well to match the theme. And it came out funky texture, I will say. And I still feel proud of myself for the extra work. And this is great after one sip. So thank you for sharing this with us.
There you go.
Perfect. Way to set us up, Joey. Cool. As you mentioned, right, at RealPage, Matt, you promoted over 100 reps into AEs. What was the business problem that made you start this specific enablement program, and what has the impact been on the business? I'd love to hear a little bit more about the history of it.
I am incredibly obsessed with all things SDRs. It's all I've ever done with my career. I joke that it's the only skill I can provide society. I've been a part of one of these teams or leading them for the last, 10, 15 years. So, but one of the things that I always noticed at all the companies I had been at is they looked at the SDR program as a nice to have, not a need to have. And most of the time it was related to just pipeline and just meetings, which obviously that's the goal of the program, is to increase pipeline and opportunities and deals. But it's also the talent bench for the entire sales organization. And if you look at a lot of SDR programs out there, you've got the SDR as they're exiting doesn't necessarily meet the qualifications for the AE that they're wanting them to roll into. So there was a disconnect there of like, we're developing a lot of SDRs, but the gap to get them promoted to AE is not as strong as it could be. And so I was sitting with a team full of reps that were having trouble getting promoted to the next level because they weren't, quote unquote, ready by the next sales leader's opinions. And so one of the things I looked at was, okay, well, we do a lot of training already. And of course, we're always trying to train, but we were looking at training as getting them better at their current job as an SDR and doing a lot of cold calling training and objection handling, that kind of stuff. And not a ton of next level training of getting them prepared to become AEs. And so we created this Sales Academy, and we created the curriculum and the training and the enablement to be run by the VPs of inside sales that they're ultimately promoting into. So they've gone through with us and back into all the training and all of the development that we do, so that by the time our reps are considered promotion ready, they've spent the last 9 months being trained to be AEs by the people they're going to be working for. So we've done that. And then we've also started to take the Kevin Rock, our VP of inside sales, actually does the final interviews with me, so that he's trying to see an SDR candidate. Are they going to be able to be an AE on my team? And I'm looking at, could they do this role? So that's kind of how we think about it. Happy to go deeper into that, but I mean, that's where those are really what we started to solve for. And since then, I mean, we can't even keep staffed because there's so much demand from the rest of the organization to keep plucking and pulling our people that now we have other departments, customer success and customer support and other people coming into us saying like, hey, we have these needs, do you have anybody that would fill them? So it's been great, but it's created quite of a recruiting headache for us, but we're slowly working on it. So
that's beautiful. And I think there's two things that stick out there. One, because we were talking about this probably multiple podcasts by now, but I agree with you on hiring SDRs is not just to do the job right now. It's to like create the future sales leaders, top AEs, whatever at that company, or obviously like within the future anywhere. So I love that you said that. And the other part that's tough is it's like the only role that you're constantly losing the best people, because when they're really good at it, they get promoted out. And so when you're talking about having the inside sales leader set up the curriculum, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'm curious if and this might be more like the business impact side, what like percentage of the people who've gone through that internally are promoted versus like external hires? Like, is it a much higher clip that you're just promoting? Like, are majority of the AEs at RealPage coming from the internal promotion, or do you still hire externally? Like, would love to see how like successful it is.
They would take 100% of their hires from my group if we had enough that were ready, because it's so much easier for them to ramp coming out of my program because they already understand the company, the products, the market, the conversations and stuff. But they are ramping a lot faster than somebody from outside that's coming in. But I would say, if you look over at that group, there's probably at least 80% of the AEs in the SMB space are coming from our group. We're slowly trickling them up into the mid-market and enterprise divisions, but I think we have a few in each. But yeah, I mean, most of that next tier from us is coming right out of our program.
Nice. So something you mentioned is having the VP of sales in the interview process, where you're not just looking for someone who's going to be successful as an SDR, but also has a future as a successful AE. Can you talk about like a skill set or a type of candidate you've had where you were really bullish on their outlook as an SDR, but didn't see the future as an AE? And like, what was kind of the skill gap?
Yeah, it's tough with what we do because we sell 100 products to one buyer instead of selling one product to all the buyers. So we have to look at, and obviously we sell real estate software to multifamily owners and operators. So people that have large real estate portfolios, they're very complicated business problems they're trying to solve for, complicated solutions that we put together. So it's a very consultative sale. So from an aptitude perspective, we may have a candidate who I can tell is going to grind the phones, work hard, do everything right, has the right mindset, they're coachable, all of it. But maybe they haven't shown anywhere in their background that they've had the aptitude to understand all of that we're going to ask them to understand. So I think that's really where we've started to shift our focus on, it's not necessarily just someone who will grind it out, but it's going to be somebody who will figure out how to put together a multi-million-dollar customized solution for somebody.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and definitely selling more technical products. I've definitely seen that gap. So in terms of the like sales enablement, what skill sets do you think kind of most overlap between the reps on your team that are successful and what's going to make them successful as an AE? And then what are the skill sets where you kind of focus the most on in your training, that they haven't gotten as much experience with, I guess, besides the kind of technical knowledge that we talked about for the interviews?
Yeah, I'll try not to give all my secret sauce away, but I'm happy to share with anybody that has questions. But the way I've built the program out is there's 3 stages. So launch, accelerate, elevate. Each stage has a set of criteria that they have to complete in order to move to the next stage. Once they move past elevate and they complete elevate, they become promotion ready. So they're in a promotion bucket that they start to do interviews and all of that kind of stuff. All of the training and development that we do is based on their stage. So the launch groups together, the accelerate groups together, and the elevate groups together, and the training curriculum increases in complexity as they move stages, and it's where it starts with, here's how to be a really good SDR, and call it like the first 3 months of their career. And then it starts to progress to discovery 101 and discovery 201 and deal qualification and deal site. And so we really start to point them through at the accelerate, elevate level to really dial them into focusing more on what's happening after the cold call as opposed to just leading up to it.
Okay. I like that. So launch, accelerate, elevate, right? Those are the 3 different categories. At what point do they enter this? Is launch immediately upon they're ramped and they're good, now they're in the launch, and then accelerate? What are then the criteria that they need to fit into each section there?
So that first 3 months, the beauty of the program is it's self-paced, because I don't want to hold anybody back that's flying through this program and hitting all of the numbers they need to hit. That's probably one of the biggest things that we do, and that's how we get accelerated promotions. Sometimes we'll take people from a larger company that's an SDR that may have 2 years before they can get promoted, and it's hey, you come here and you do everything we're asking you to do, and you could be out of here in 6 to 12 months. It just depends on how hard you want to work. But the some of the things for launch, it's hit your ramp quota. They have to get to our minimum call number each day and minimum email number. We ask them to take a professional headshot and put it on their LinkedIn and their Teams and their Salesforce and all their stuff internally, which helps elevate our brand, in the company. And then once they've completed all that, they move to accelerate. Accelerate's going to be string together 4 months worth of quota. We want you to you have to get a survey. Sorry, you have to get a survey that you send out to an account executive that you work for that's been to President's Club. So they have to go and do that. They fill out a survey, and the survey is kind of in depth. It's why, give us some examples of why you think this person is good at getting to the next level. So that gives us the check on the peers, and then there's a couple other things they do. And then when we get to elevate, there's a few things. Elevate is they have to go through a boot camp that we have that's all focused on them delivering a discovery call to one of those next level VPs. So it's 3 days worth of content, getting them ready to do their first discovery call. And then by the time they get to, once they complete that, then they start working through a couple other things where they actually have to present their case to me and their manager on why they think they're promotion ready or should be promotion ready. They have to put together a 30, 60, 90-day plan at that next level, which they have to go and source. We give them no outline. They have to go source it and talk to those next level reps and help them build it out. And then their final step is they have to get a survey from one of our sales VPs signing off on the fact that they think that they're ready to go. And then at that point, they become promotion ready, and then they're ready to interview.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. I appreciate the breakdown there. You said you didn't want to spill all your secret sauce, but spill it all over. So
it helps the SDR culture get better. Who cares?
Agreed. Okay. So one, I love you said it's the self-paced, you don't want to ever get in the way of someone that's sprinting through stuff. That was something I loved about Chili Piper, which is where Joey and I first met. Was you'd have BDRs that just came in and they're the best that you've ever seen. And it's I hate when sometimes you have to limit them because it's like, well, we don't move that fast. And there's people that would fly into an AE role within like sometimes 6-7 months, and it sounds crazy, but then they would be the best AE and they'd rise up really fast. Whoa, sorry, I hit the microphone. I'll blame it on the old fashioned. And I love that. The question is like, who is outside of the self pace that they're creating themselves? Who's like managing all of the other steps? Like you said, they need to do this. Is it all like selfly led by them, or is there spots that the manager has to jump in? Is there additional like training sessions that like an enablement team or yourself or someone like comes in and like fills it? Because it seems like something where if you have a large number of people that are all like a week or 2 or 3 behind, it's like very chaotic. And I think that's why sometimes people put it together where it's like once a month we do this kind of thing, once a month we do this, which slows down the people who are a lot further ahead. But just curious like what the structure of that looks like, of who's leading some of the sessions and how often that works.
I mean, it honestly starts with probably the best leadership team that I've ever had. I mean, I've got Katie Carr, who has ran SDR teams for a long time and had a passion for the enablement stuff. And we actually got to slide her into the enablement side of things just for the Sales Academy. So she handles all of our onboarding, our curriculum. She makes sure all the trainings are happening and that people are prepared and have all the stuff that they need. And so that's been amazing because she was an SDR leader for me and really got to understand the culture, what we're building, how we're doing things, the gaps, and then she's filling all of those gaps. And then I have 2 other managers. I have a director, Alex, and then another manager, Matt, who both have their own teams. And so the goal was that me and Alex and Matt could spend all of our time kind of performance managing and staying focused on things. And Katie could make sure that the process of the training and all of the stuff that we go through is followed to a T. So I think that's how we had to do it. Before Katie was in that role starting this year, we were just bootstrapping it as a team, and it was just getting to become so much because you're just constantly over churning. Like I'll hire 4 and 4 will quit, and it's just like it's all over the place. So it was a high demand. So I'd recommend, if you're going to put something this big in place, that you do have some sort of a dedicated resource that can manage all of it, because it gets to be too much as a leader. But
1,000%. That was the first thing, was just like the bandwidth seems tough, but you have obviously people that are in place. So just real quick, last question on this, and then we'll move forward. But as far as like the largest impact of creating this, would you say it is like it handles like attrition? Is it because now you have like AEs again that really get it and they can come on and ramp up really fast? Would you say it makes actually the SDRs and their success metrics better because of the carrot and the stick lighter than the tunnel? Like which aspect would you say this plays the biggest impact on for the team?
I mean, it's really both. I mean, we're seeing our close rates go way up. I think we went from I feel like it was a 10% to about a 15 to 18% on our win rates, which was really good. We're starting to see we're incentivizing the reps on a held meeting, and then that held meeting going to a demo and having it with an outcome. And so the reps are now sitting with deals longer. So we're seeing less deals falling off and more execution on them. But then it's also allowing our SDRs to follow the whole sales process and be a part of it. So they're getting that exposure too. So by the time they've been through all this training and they've sat through 100 and something, sales cycles. So they're ready to go at the next level. So I think we're seeing on both ends.
Can you tell us more about that? Like how do SDRs follow along, and like when do they start doing that?
Yeah, so we coming into this year, we used to align them to team. So each team, like AE team, had 2 or 3 resources. But what we found was there would be so much churn there that the AEs would get tired of like, here's another SDR, and like, let me go through all this stuff again. And by the time I get a good one, they leave, and like all of that whole headache. And so what we did this year was we aligned them directly to 3 to 5 AEs for their entire career with us. So they never change until they get promoted. So the AEs are now starting to develop them, but then they're not just 3 AEs on the S&B team. They have one from SMB, one from mid-market, one from corporate enterprise. And so they're getting exposure into the 3 different size customer bases, the 3 different tenures of reps, and the 3 different types of deals, so that they have an understanding of how a larger operator is thinking about versus a smaller operator and all of that. So that's been a pretty big game changer for us from the alignment perspective, because it's now making the AEs take more ownership in the SDRs and developing them and seeing them as a partner as opposed to just, a resource for a moment.
Yep. And when we talk about following along, like, are they joining the calls from the first call?
Yep. Yeah. The thought is, they started the whole relationship. So the prospect knows who they are, and they come on, tag along, and take notes. And we ask them to send the follow-ups following the calls and the demos and all of that kind of stuff. So they're taking notes and paying attention and doing all that. So
I love that. All right. So let's say you've got an SDR, like, just starting onboarding, somehow books a meeting on their first day. Mm-hmm. A meeting is set for their second day. You've barely had any time to prep them. 10 minutes before the call, you finally have time to talk to them. What do you tell them? Like, what's like the last minute thing they need to know before they join their first call?
Put on a collared shirt, have good lighting, have good background, comb your hair, like, make sure that you're presentable. Make sure that you provide your AE with a pre-discovery sheet that has who this client is, what are the pain points that we're covering, what are the challenges they're having, why are we having this call, link to the opportunities, link to everything that the rep's going to need right in one view, and try to get that over to them. And then when you get on there, just hey, thanks for joining. Wanted to introduce you to Peter, and then off to the races.
Love it. All right, last Sales Academy related question from me. Once again, I'm going to make you imagine a fake scenario that would never happen to you, it seems. A year from now, somehow no SDR on your team has gone through any trainings of this Sales Academy, and you get told, we need to promote an AE today. You have time for them to do one training from the Sales Academy. What are you making them do? And, like, tell us everything you can about that training, basically.
First off, I would do what any second line leader would do and say, go talk to that person. But no, I would probably go to the VP of sales and be like, hey, what should we cover? What do you want to do? But I would assume, based on how they would respond, that it's, they need to understand how to run an effective discovery. So we would probably do some sort of training on running a discovery call, asking the right questions, asking good questions, coming prepared with questions ahead of time and things you want to address. And then basically just a one-on-one or 101 of, these are the resources that you can go to get the answers that you're going to need. Because I think, as salespeople, it's always about trying to get that next person in, trying to get the SE on the call the next time and then moving the deal. So the very first skill you're going to need is making the discovery call effective.
Yep. One of the first discovery trainings I do with new SDRs who, like, don't have sales experience is we basically do a role play where I am inviting them to come to a party, and I'll be like, hey, I'm having a party tonight. You have to come. And then and I tell them that they're busy. I tell them before. So they're like, oh no, I can't. And then I'm just like, no, seriously, you have to. Like, I need you there, whatever. And I'm just, like, very persistent. And then we do it a second time. And instead I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what are you doing tonight? And, start asking questions. And it's kind of a weird example, but it, like, sends the message of the importance of, like, listening and meeting them where they're at, asking questions. Like, what do your kind of, like, basic discovery trainings look like for someone who is going from an SDR to an AE role? Like, how you run a discovery training for someone who's preparing for an AE role.
Yeah. So the first thing is we go through some basic sales methodology. We're actually in the process of evaluating a couple of those right now, but we would basically, as of right now, what we're doing is we're covering spin selling methodology with them. We're talking about discovery questions, open-ended question versus close-ended question, really about trying to come prepared with information that you can find out yourself and ask the questions you couldn't find out ahead of time, because then you're maximizing your time on the phone with the prospect. So we typically kind of go through those different levels, and then we'll follow that up with a Discovery 201 training that goes even deeper into that with some actual examples of good discoveries, and some recorded discoveries and that kind of stuff.
Lovely. I appreciate that. That's super helpful.
Yep.
And I love that you said about like 10% to 15 or 18% close one rate, like increase. I think that's pretty, almost double from like an academy alone. So very cool. Matt, appreciate the time today. Appreciate the smoked old fashioned at what time I will not share over here on the Pacific Coast. The last question that we have, which is about more yourself and less about the Sales Academy. Outside of work, what is one thing that you would like to accomplish in your life?
Well, I got 4 kids, so there's four things that I need to accomplish there. But I think outside of that, it's just leaving a legacy for them, teaching them how to work hard and go out and get what they want, and leaving my mark on something that I can be proud of. So,
perfect answer.
I love that. I'm one of 4 as well. Matt, you're 3 or 4?
I'm 3, but we have our firstborn 9 months now, and I don't know if we'll do 3 or 4 or maybe 1. Who knows? Definitely not 1. But
well, we had 3 boys, and then we did the Hail Mary for the girl, and we got her. So we were like, okay,
nice.
Wait, that's exactly my family. Yeah, with 3 boys and then a girl.
Love it. I bet yours probably tougher than all 3 of you.
Spot on.
Yep. That's what it's starting to pan out over here. So,
love that. That's a great response.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. This is extremely helpful for me. That is always a good indicator that it's going to be helpful for our listeners. So thank you so much, Matt, for joining us, taking us through your Sales Academy and some really good practical advice on how to help develop SDRs into great long-term sellers. If you enjoyed this episode and got as much as we did out of it, throw us a like, a subscribe, a comment, anything, a mention on LinkedIn. We love it. And we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next time.